So Bo Nickal has been under fire lately for this clip that we're going to take a look at a second from championship rounds. He is talking about his recent fight and the commentary. We're going to react to it. We're going to take a look at the Explore page and replies over from championship rounds, Ariel Helwani, and all of these people that posted this video in general to kind of get a gauge on how people are feeling about it. And as always, I'd love to know what you think about it in the comment section down below afterwards. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Kyle. I'm your guy with many YouTube channels. Guys, let's first watch this clip with Bo Nickal from championship rounds from the Ariel Helwani interview. Excuse me.
That was a little disappointing was the commentary and just kind of hearing the way that they were looking at the fight, and it made me feel like they didn't really know what was going on as much.
Now, this is already a problem for Bo Nickal because you have three guys that obviously do know. Like, I don't even know how to say that. Like, he's just flat out wrong. They obviously know what they're talking about this sport. Rogan's the only one that you can really argue about that he's kind of losing it a little bit when it comes to prospects. But even then, to talk about the other two commentators, like, I think that's ridiculous personally. It's not even, you can't even break that down. It's just wrong.
Because anybody that I've talked to that are people that I trust and know shoot straight with me, they're like, dude, you like shut that guy out. Domination, it was a flawless victory.
So I don't understand how Bo Nickal can look at that and rewatch his fight. Or maybe if you would think differently if you're an active participant, I understand that. But if you watch that fight back and you think complete domination, it's also just flat out incorrect. I think it's time to take a look at that. If Bo Nickal actually watched this fight and was honest about it, he would know that that means he has a bunch of yes men in his corner. Obviously, that's what it means. Will Bo Nickal take a look at that? I don't know. And we're going to continue on to the video in a second. And if you guys have been following the channel, you would know that I've enjoyed Bo Nickal's journey so far. I kind of got a sour taste in my mouth after the Cody Brundage win because he was being really, he wasn't being disrespectful, but he was at the same time. Like the backhanded compliment kind of, because he had a tough fight with Cody Brundage and he was like, I finished him, but I can do better. I'm embarrassed by that performance. I'm embarrassed that I didn't finish Cody Brundage. I get it, but it's still really, really disrespectful. So that left a sour taste in my mouth personally. And now we're hearing all of this where he's talking about steamrolling guys like Hamzat. He's talking about beating up Robert Whittaker. He's talking about becoming a champion and being like he already belongs in the top 3 of the division. And then he puts on a performance like that against Paul Craig. He's not backing it up at all, and he's being a little bit delusional. Not even a little bit delusional. He's being a lot of bit delusional. He's being majorly delusional when it comes to this recent performance. So I'm actually, while I respect what Bo Nickal does and all of his accomplishments, I'm kind of riding off of the Bo Nickal train, and I'm finding myself more so with the MMA community on this one. Because again, I wasn't a hater, and I'm still not a hater. I just go like, come on, Bo, and I'm shaking my head at him.
And to hear things like, DC say, oh, he's not ready for Hamzat. And I think he was kind of trying to like be respectful, but also trying to like, I don't know.
Be honest? Because he was being honest. You are not ready for Hamzat Chimaev. That performance you put on and all the performances that we've seen so far showed us that you are absolutely not ready for Hamzat Chimaev.
Maybe like set me down a peg. It was just weird to hear. But
why is it weird to hear? Is it because you have a lot of like yes men in your corner?
I just feel like the people that I know that are in my corner who would give me honest, genuine feedback.
I don't understand though how you can watch that fight, that performance that you put on, and think about domination being the honest feedback from your corner. No, that if anything, that proves to you have yes men around you.
They're very happy with the victory. I was very happy with the victory. And so that's what I really care about at the end of the day. But it was a little disappointing to hear some of those comments from people that I respect a lot.
Now, again, they're doing commentary. You shouldn't lose like respect for them, or like, I'm not saying that he did lose respect for him, but he's clearly bothered about it, and they're just being honest. They're commentating on what they see, and they're saying like they're putting it very, very lightly because the UFC is putting a lot of work into pushing Bo Nickal right now. So what they had to say was on the light side. In reality, Paul Craig, as much as I am a fan of Paul Craig is past his prime, and he is no longer a fighter that belongs anywhere near the top 15 of the middleweight division. Bo Nickal just went toe-to-toe with him in a boring fight where there was no wrestling advantage, and he threw nothing but overhands. His hands were down, like nothing looked good about what Bo Nickal did. The commentary did not dig into him at all. I think it's time to take a look at the people around you. I think it's time to assess your performance and think, hey, if my corner is thinking that I dominated this fight, maybe I have a lot of yes men around me. Maybe I need to reevaluate how I do things. Now, I did want to take a look at a bunch of replies to this specifically and a bunch of other tweets from the Explore page, response to championship rounds, things like that, because I don't want to get just my opinion on it. I want to get a gauge on how people are feeling about this. Now, the only reason that I'm including my tweet over here is because I wanted to take a look at a reply to it, because I just tweeted, did he want to glaze him, lol, and it's completely true, to be honest with you, and this is what a user had to say. I think getting a 30-27 dominant win versus a respected vet is something that is impressive, and the commentary team shouldn't be comparing him to a pound-for-pound top 5 level fighter when he is in his 7th ever MMA fight. What I had to say in response to this is completely accurate. That wasn't dominant at all. Also, the reason that they're comparing him is because he's been talking like he'd steamroll Whitaker and Chimaev. I agree that it would be a little bit rude for the commentary to just go completely out of their way and say like, oh my god, well, this guy's not ready for the top 5. This guy doesn't have it at all. But it's completely warranted when you have Bo Nickal already talking like he's a champion. He's 6-0. What is he, 7-0 now? He's already talking like he belongs in the top 3 of the division, like he'll ragdoll Khamzat Chimaev, specifically Robert Whitaker. He'll beat Dricus du Plessis, and he's talking like they aren't even going to be close fights. He's talking like he's just flat out better than them. Of course, you're going to take those words that he says and compare him to those fighters at the top of the division. The commentary was completely justified in bringing that up. Let's continue on to Victor Damon Jr. They were telling him the truth. Khamzat doesn't come in the octagon and play games and make jokes against anyone. None of Bo's opponents have prepared him for Khamzat. He is not ready. And that's exactly what he showed in his performance. Let's continue on. If he's afraid to grapple Paul Craig, what chance does he have against Khamzat? Like, I don't know. Even to say Paul Craig could submit Khamzat, like, you know what? At least Paul Craig might have a better chance against Khamzat. That's actually a really good point. Another user had this to say, dude, he would get absolutely mauled by Khamzat. Can tell this kid has only been told what he wants to hear. This is my little bit of an issue. Not gonna lie, that's what he sounds like. It's like years of yes men's around him. I respect everything that Bo Nickal's done, and I've liked him, and I still kind of do up until this point. Now I'm kind of neutral on Bo Nickal. I don't dislike him, I don't like him, but I did like Bo Nickal. Now, it's coming out like it really does feel like he's only ever been told what he wants to hear. And I know you hear these comments a lot, but listening to Bo Nickal assess that performance, and even the one against Cody Brundage, and even listening to him before this fight, like talk about how great of a fighter he is, and then to do that, he might actually be one of those guys that have been told what he wants to hear. And if he's getting fed in his ear over and over again about how great he is, about how he's going to beat Khamzat Chimaev, what happens when you put him up against a guy like Brennan Allen, a guy like Joe Pyfer in the division, guys that will seriously hurt him? He'll go in there overconfident, throwing his overhands, and get pieced up, and that stuff does long-term and permanent damage to you. Bo Nickal's clearly not ready. His corner and coaches need to be honest with him. And honestly, shame on them for doing that. Shame on them for just telling him that he's the best. Like, that's not okay. That's not the job of a coach. And you can tell that's what he's being fed. Might be disappointing to hear, but the truth hurts. Get back in the gym and work harder. Allow that discouragement to drive you. Keep your head up. That's what we need to hear. That's what Bo Nickal needs to hear. The truth hurts. Get back in the gym. Work harder. You have some major improving to do. And you know what? None of us would be talking about this if he wasn't talking like he was a champion. Let's continue on. Sour Death Sam had this to say, clearly needs more people in his corner to keep it 100% with him, because DC is right. He doesn't look ready for Khamzat. And also, if you want to talk about like any sort of wrestling credentials, if you're talking about Bo Nickal's wrestling versus Khamzat Chimaev's wrestling, I think Daniel Cormier might be a guy to listen to. If I was Bo Nickal, I wouldn't look at Daniel Cormier of all people, one of the most accomplished wrestlers in the history of the sport, double champion. I wouldn't look at what he has to say and go, oh wow, that's disappointing. I don't know what Daniel Cormier was saying. No, I would be listening intently to what Daniel Cormier is saying about me. If Daniel Cormier had anything to say about what I was doing in the octagon, Daniel Cormier is absolutely somebody I would be listening to. I get it. If you want to talk about guys like Rogan, Anik, while they do have very, very good commentary, and I still would ultimately disagree, at least I would get it from Bo Nickal's perspective. But Daniel Cormier? Really? No way. Let's continue on to Backspace. This is why he will not improve. Too much ego. He stands nowhere where Khamzat is. Just because he fights on the main card and has Dana's privilege doesn't mean he is up there in MMA skills. His wrestling credential doesn't mean he is a good MMA fighter. DC is right. Bo needs humility, and he's gonna get that with the rate that he's at right now. He's gonna get that, absolutely. He's gonna get crushed in one of his opponents, maybe like a Jack Hermanson. Dankus MMA had this to say: "The people in my corner who's given me honest, genuine feedback. Brother, you've surrounded yourself with yes men, and they aren't giving the feedback that you need. A lot of work on the stand-up and aren't ready for someone like Hamzat or Kaio." Yeah, Kaio would. Oh my god. Hamzat and Kaio would just ruin him. Would ruin him. That's so, like, he was actually sitting down and saying that the people in my corner who's given me honest, genuine feedback, they haven't. Listen to the internet, Bo Nickal. This isn't hate. They're being honest with you, and a lot of people are coming from, like, there are a lot of people who just want to make fun of you, but there's a lot of people who, like me, don't want, and I've liked your come up. I don't want to see you take life-changing damage because you got yourself a top contender that you clearly aren't ready for because you're not improving. And I haven't seen, I don't know about you guys, I haven't seen any improvement whatsoever in Bo Nickal's game since I've watched him fight on the Contender Series. While Bo Nickal himself doesn't seem to be improving in his MMA game, you know who has been improving? Tom Aspinall. Why don't you check out this video on why I think Tom Aspinall would beat John Jones in a fight? I'd love to have you guys over there. Take care, everybody.